Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's June 5th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and really big rally today. Prices opened almost on their low and closed almost on their very high. Really strong rally. I mean, we shot right through the support resistance here. It didn't act as resistance really at all. It started acting as support, and then we pushed right on through here, and I'm not sure how close we are to the previous all-time high there. 53.68 and a quarter. We made an exact double top right there. So interesting that we didn't push on through, or that we made an exact top. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Generally, a breakout here will fail, even if only temporary. I did draw a new trend line here. Maybe we're going to get a new trend started here. You can see off those first two swings, and all of these bars were bouncing or closing inside that trend line. So we may have a new trend established here. I mean, nothing would surprise me with this market. I just do not believe it's ever going to sell off before an election comes, before November. We might get some corrections, but I don't think they'll last very long. And you see it every time this thing looks like it's fixing to take a tank. They come in and they start buying, especially late in the afternoon when the volume gets real thin, and during the overnight they just buy it up and they drive it right back up again. So I mean, anything can always happen, so nothing's ever written in stone. But wouldn't surprise me if this market goes much higher. Really wouldn't. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. So um, it is what it is, and whichever way it goes, we're going to go with it. We don't care what it really does as long as it moves, and it is moving. So it gives us a lot of opportunity to trade it. So that's what we want. Uh, the worst thing that could happen is when you start working sideways on every day. So the fact that it's rallying or selling off whichever way, as long as it's moving and trending, we don't care which way it's going. Of course, I always prefer it to go up longer term because of all my longer term investments. I want them to go up, not down. Uh, but I think this market is, I just don't think this market matches the economy and the situation that's going on. So I think it's manipulated. Doesn't matter. And that's just my opinion. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But uh, again, it doesn't matter. As long as it's moving, we're going to go with it. That's all that matters. So here it is. You see it on the daily chart. Let's flip over to our 2,000 tick chart, and you'll see it looks just as bullish. You can see here once again early on, it looked like it might be a range day, but notice how we tested this a few times and it took off. And we had this real steep, and then it folded over into a more of a 45-degree angle, which is much more healthy trend than one that's this steep. And you can see we closed basically almost on the high. So I mean, it was bullish all. Once it started up here around 9 o'clock, it was bullish all the way. And we did have a couple of news items. We had the PMI again here at 9 o'clock, which maybe drove this rally, and we had the unemployment early, which drove it up before it started selling off again. So the fact that we opened way up here leaves this gap down here, and I'm assuming prices were trying to fill that gap, but the market, there was just too much buying. They couldn't even fill the gap today. They just took off. You notice yesterday we opened down here and we had the gap up here, and we did fill that gap and actually closed above it slightly. Today we could not fill that gap to the downside, so that tells you the market's fairly strong. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we got this really strong trend moving up here, and then you get a little two-legged correction and it starts another one. So what you'd probably want to do is measure this. I've already got one on there. Actually, I measured this first leg here and here, but you would want to do, once we started this, you would want, and you see they were pretty close to two measured legs, then you'd want to measure this leg. And you can see we didn't quite fill that one. They ran out of time before we could fill that one. But the prices were sure trying, even right into the close, they were trying to fill that, make that measured move there. So that's how I saw it today. Let's zoom in here. We'll go through the trades. You had to sit tight because of this 7:15 news, so you really couldn't trade till after that. Um, And I'm going to zoom in here and show you this because a couple of people asked me about this. When you see prices going sideways here and you get a tick up, don't count that as a first entry. Not unless you're in a super strong trend like over here when you had way up into this trend and you're starting to see that it's super strong. Because what the whole idea behind second entries is you're looking for two legs down. Well, I only see one real move down here. Boom, and then a correction, then we tried to go lower again, it failed, and it took off. So this double top, I would count that as a new high because it doesn't really look like a move or a leg. It's just sideways congested action. So you got a move down, first entry, a move down, and when it broke above there, right at the key entry point, a second entry long, and look at it go. If you just took this one trade today, that's probably all you needed. But I had some people ask me about this and why it failed. Well, it's a first entry. Remember on second entries that you can count it either way, but when it doesn't look like a leg, count it as a new high and start your count over. And if you do that right here, it's a simple trade. It's easy, and that's probably the only trade you need today because you would have got a runner on that one real easy, and off it goes. Then it turns down. I just don't see anything here to the downside that I really liked. There's a second entry below this double matching lows here, but that there's just too much stem there, and it looks too congested, so just skip that. You might say, hey, there's a lower stem, so you can't go short there. So just nothing there. Then by the time you get another setup here, you're into the news, and so you can't enter there. And it had pretty much settled down. It settled down real quickly within a few minutes. And notice you got a new low here, first entry, second entry. So a second entry short, nice signal bar, only 5 ticks right off the key entry point. There's you another real simple trade, and you can see it. You get a lower high here, but no signal bar. Can't take that. And then notice how we came up short here. We didn't make it back down to the downside, and we're trending back up to the trend line. That's usually a sign you're probably going to get a break here. And so you just have to kind of sit tight. And there's two trends here. You have the green one, which comes right off the first couple of swings. But this is also a little spike and channel up, and you could draw it both ways. And you can see the blue channel is obviously valid all the way up. So this green one's just a shorter term one within the darker blue one on the spike and channel. We're running up here on the green one, and you get a first entry and then a pull back in the second entry. Normally I'd tell you not to take that trade because it didn't make a new low. It's an inside bar, but this is starting to look pretty strong already here, and it does make a lower high, so a break above that's a second entry. And just because, and since it just came off the key entry point, I like it. You don't know that it's going to take off like this. You're just trying to get a scalp out of it, but look at it take off. And you probably get another runner there. And it runs up here, and you get a triple test right after coming off the trend line there, and a nice signal bar. I like going short there because it looks it's a failed break out of the possible highs of the range here. And as long as you got room back to the EMA, I'd say take that trade. You can see it not only breaks that trend line in the EMA, it goes all the way back to this possible other trend line, and it confirms it real quickly. And then we're working sideways again, and it confirms it yet again. This one I only marked green. You do have a first entry and a second entry, and this is a triple test right here. 1, 2, 3. Right at the key entry point, right at the EMA. There's not a lot of room to these highs, so for that reason, I marked it green. It's really starting to look strong, but you got to be careful here because sometimes it'll run up there and test that and turn down and stop you out. So it's not a perfect setup, but because it's a strong trend, you may want to take it. And then this was a second entry here too. But the problem is it didn't break above on this next bar. So you can't use it for a signal bar. So I just skipped that one, but you get the better opportunity to enter right here, and it just instantly takes off again. In fact, this one takes off so fast, um, it's possible if you didn't get your order in there real quick, you didn't get in that trade. But it runs up here, makes a new high, and then you get a first entry, second entry. And here we are again. It's just one tick. It doesn't look like but one leg, but because it's off the key entry point and it doesn't make a double top or anything, I think you're okay to take that as a second entry trade and go ahead and go longer. I still marked it green just because unless you're a real skilled chart reader, most of you probably can't tell any difference between that trade and the one I showed you earlier, which was here. But you can see there's a double top. If you just look at the pattern, they look exactly the same, but they're not. There's some differences. And now we're in a really strong trend here as well. So I like that trade, to be honest with you, but I'm only going to mark it green because unless you're super skilled at reading this chart, you're not going to see any difference there really. But if you just wait, clearly you get a clear two legs back to the EMA trend line, nice signal bar, perfect second entry right there. And this one, you may not have got a runner on this one. It just depends on how you entered it and how you played your stop. And notice how we came up short here. So that's telling you we might get a break, which we do. And I don't see any reason to go short here. You're just kind of waiting for a retest or something. And you do get a retest here, but there's no good setups. I don't see anything I like all the way up. And then we come back here and we start another trend up. There's a second entry right here, but the signal bar is no good. And then finally you get a first entry. There's a second entry, but then you get a triple test here, nice signal bar. And because this thing's so strong now, and you get a triple test right off the key entry point and the EMA, super nice signal bar. I like going long there. If you want to be really safe here, now a lot of times I'm going to tell you you'll miss these trades, but better to miss it and play it conservative than to screw up and have a loss. So what you might do is let it break higher and drop a limit order far enough back that you have enough room to scalp out before these highs. And you can see this thing came back. I'm not sure how far it came back after it broke higher. I don't remember specifically. So it may not have come quite this far back, but you probably you could have easily been a tick or two into this thing and maybe had enough to scalp out here, maybe 3 ticks, and played it that way. So in other words, let it break higher and drop your limit order in and see if it gives you a little better entry. And it would have on that bar. I don't know how much specifically, but you could have got a better entry than 1 tick above that. And you could have probably given yourself plenty of room to scalp out. That way, in case it does turn down, it does find resistance and turn down, you still have a winning trade. So there's ways to play these things sometimes to take some of the risk out of it. But sometimes you're going to miss the trade because sometimes that'll just break higher and take off and you miss that trade. But better to miss a trade than to take a loser. So most of you are better off playing the conservative route every time. When you get to be really good at this and you're making money consistently and rarely have losses, then you can maybe take a few more chances. We run up here again, and again you try to come back 3 times. It's also a first entry, second entry. It looks more sideways than anything. And we did just come off this high twice. So I didn't mark this, but that's another one, and it would have worked. But I just think we're getting late in this trend, and we've just came off the high twice. Now it's 3 times. But look, it bounced off of it 4 times. If you'd had this trend line confirmed here, which it didn't get confirmed until probably here, if you'd had it confirmed here, maybe you'd take that trade. But under the circumstance, I think you just have to skip that because we just came off the top twice. But ends up we come off that top line 2 more times. Actually, the green one 2 more times and the blue one just one more time. So anyway, I don't see anything else here I like to the long side. And you got to be real careful going short. And that just takes us down into 230, and that pretty much closed up the day for us. So interesting day, but notice we came back to the trend line here and bounced right off of it again and took off again. Again, we did not quite make a measured move. It's close, but we're not quite there. Just we ran out of time. I'm guessing probably ran out of time today. And we don't, prices don't always meet their measured moves, but generally they're good targets, and generally you're going to meet them and sometimes surpass them a little bit. So depending on how strong the market is. But when you don't make it and prices turn down, usually that means they're going to move a good bit in the other direction. But prices have never really turned down here. They just ran out of time and the market closed. So no reason to try to go short there. But there it is again. You see it. We really had 1, 2, 3 trends up, and there's lots of little trends within those trends. So always draw your micro stuff and try to let it play out. Now I will say this on these micro trends like this right here, when you got a trend this strong, I'd still draw my micro trends, but they don't always have to play out. Like right here, that was a second entry right off the key entry point. Again, I marked it green because it's not a perfect 2 legs. It doesn't look like that. But here you got a clear 2 legs and a nice signal bar. Just take that trade. And if you draw your micro trend here, you get a break and a new low. It all plays out like it's supposed to. But sometimes it won't play out because the bigger trend or the bigger pattern is stronger. Like right here. Let's say, just take this trend back right here. If you wait on a new low here, you won't ever get a trade. Because, let me zoom in here and go over this with you. You can see you get a break and it tries to go lower multiple times and it finally bounces right off the trend line and goes higher. It can't go lower because the market's too strong. It's trying like heck right here to come back and make a new low, but it can't. Same thing here. And that's why you can't really get a trend on that first leg. So this is your real first trend. But because the market's strong, I'm gonna treat that like a second entry, even though sometimes I wouldn't treat that like a second entry. Okay, sorry I had a little interruption there. I think we were just talking about this one, why I made it green, because there's no break and it's a second entry, but this has become a real strong trend. So if you recognize what's going on, you take that trade. Again, most of you that are learning, you probably want to wait till you get a clear second entry like this. You can clearly see 2 legs. Again, the whole idea behind a second entry is 2 legs of movement. After the market tends to move in 2, so you get 2 legs of movement, a correction, and then the market takes off again. And you can see that over and over. So keep that in mind, because that's what you're looking for. And it's not always 2 clear legs like that. It might be more jumbled like this, but there's probably 2 legs down. There's probably more swings than that, but there's still probably a couple of legs down. And then we went sideways, and then you get a little failed break lower, and it takes off. If you'd had a little setup down here, maybe you go long there, but you just don't get a very good setup there. There's a higher low here, but it looks too congested. So I don't know if I talked about that one. So it works in a market like this. Maybe you take that higher low, even though it's kind of like I've talked about in these strong trends. Any signal bar setup you get at the key entry point, you almost want to take them because they all take off again. But you only do that in rare occasions on a really strong trend like what we're seeing here. So anyway, there it is, all uphill today. Who knows what's coming tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see. But don't count this market out. They're not going to let it sell off. I don't care. I don't know who's buying it or who's coming in and buying it up, but it doesn't matter. It's going up, so there's more buying than there is selling. And so sit tight. If you get a trend in either direction, go with it. But yeah, it looks like the path of least resistance is up on this thing. And going back to the daily chart, let's flip back over there one more time. You can see we'd gotten well out of the overbought territory, but now we're about to push back up in that again. So when it gets back up here, we may get another correction of some kind, and it could turn down right here and take off straight down. But I don't expect that's going to happen. I expect we're going to see a lot of consolidation and sideways, and a day or two up, and then maybe a day or two of correction. But you can see here every day it tried to, I mean, it was selling off hard a couple of times, and they bought it right back up again. But it is right off that key entry point. So pay attention to this new trend line here that we've got. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. That's going to do it for today. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, and believe it or not, tomorrow's Thursday. It's going to wrap up our week again. I don't know where the days and time goes, but it just continues to go by quickly. I will share this with you. My mother's aging, and she had a stroke about 1.5 years ago, and so we put her in an assisted living home. Well, she failed over the Memorial Day weekend and broke her ankle, and now she's bedridden for 6 weeks, and she's just getting weaker every day. So I'm having to run out of here a couple of times a day and go check on my mother and help her, and it's just not an easy time. Anybody's gone through this with your parents, I feel for you. She needs to be, she's going to probably have to go to a nursing home, and every day she calls me crying, want me to take her home. She doesn't understand why she can't go home, but she can't even put her foot down for 6 weeks, and she's not strong enough to even roll over in bed now. And so it's just not good, and it's distracted me a little bit, so bear with me. If I seem a little distracted or I'm not around, you don't feel like I'm answering or around as much, that's because I am. I'm distracted. I've got personal issues with my mother's health, and it just, we thought we were finally getting her back on track and got her in an assisted living place, and she seemed to be doing pretty good, and then out of the blue she falls and breaks her ankle. At least it wasn't her hip, although I don't think this is going to be much better. I really doubt that she'll ever walk again because she's just not strong enough now, and after she lays in bed for 6 weeks, she doesn't want to do her PT. She complains about it, refuses to do it. And I'm really struggling with her. Me and my brother are really struggling trying to get a handle on her. So anyway, just thought I'd share that with you so you'd understand kind of some of the things that I'm struggling with myself at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. Hope you had a good trading day. Hope it's been a good week for you. Hopefully at the very least you're learning and getting better. And anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, and I'll see you then. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.